What is up? Welcome back. Setting the Edge, Week 13 NFL Daily Fantasy Sports Breakdown. We're here to break down the skill positions here in Week 13 for your DraftKings and FanDuel lineups. I am the Paisano. I've got to change up my Twitter name. I'm tired of people finding out from work what my Twitter is, so I switched that up real quick. I'm joined by my man, the great Zambino. We both have THA in our names because people take our Twitter ats and then don't have good Twitter games. How are we doing, bud?
I'm doing well, hoping to get back on track with NFL this week. Been a bit cold lately, to be honest. Can't pick a wide receiver to save my life the past couple weeks. Hopefully I can break that trend.
Yeah, the wide receivers have just been – if you've nailed down the receivers, you've won every week. And to say last week was a success is, just doing myself a disservice. I pretty much slaughtered a pretty shitty fest for a lot of people that had, Russell Wilson, Baldwin, Tyler Boyd didn't have that great of a game. Cooper, people got dicked on, and hope that doesn't, I hope that actually turns these people away. Cooks, another one. I hope people are off these guys because I think a lot of them have really great matchups coming into this week. Something to note is that there are no in-division games, so no AFC North versus AFC North games this week. So that bodes well for a lot of teams here, especially since it's not going to be the second time an opponent is facing each other. We know how fantasy impact, what the impact does to those guys. So I really like that for this week. But let's start at the top here, the quarterback position. We're going to break down about 5 guys or so that maybe a little more than who we like. We're looking to target Cash Games GPP Plays. We'll start it off. I'll start it off with Phillip Rivers. I think Phillip Rivers is a great play this week. You have Tampa Bay coming into town, coming off of 2 very big, emotional victories at the Chiefs and then hosting the Seahawks. And I think this is a great spot for, the Buccaneers coming off a little bit of a high here. So you take a look at the Buccaneers' pass defense. They're 10th DVOA and 27th in yards allowed per pass attempt. And the Chargers' pass offense ranks pretty decent against that, being 13th DVOA and 8th in yards per pass attempt. The Buccaneers are a bit of a funnel defense. They kind of want you to throw the ball on them. Their run defense has gotten a little bit better, but it's not that great. I just think that Rivers is a really great spot here to get to any of his receivers. Inman, Tyrell, Travis Benjamin, and at 8.1 on 8.2 on FanDuel, I think that he's smushed in between. I'm going to pay up for Big Ben or Rodgers or get a little action of that Stafford game in New Orleans, and I think Rivers makes a good, a nice little pivot there. I don't think he's going to be that high owned in cash in him. Not that I'm concerned about ownership in cash. I just think Rivers has a great game to get 250 to 330 yards and 2 touchdowns. If you look at his game log, he's gotten 3 touchdowns in each of the last 2 games, and then he had 2 in each of the 2 prior to that. He had one against at Atlanta, which is a little tougher, and then 1 against Denver, which is tougher. And then you look at, he bombed 4 on Oakland and 2 against New Orleans, and then 4 against Jacksonville earlier this season. So we know we can light it up. They love to throw the ball, but the only concern for Rivers is if they get into the goal line and they just pound the ball with Melvin Gordon. That's something that might scare me a little bit, but I think Phillip Rivers makes for a good cash game play and a GPP play. What are your thoughts on Rivers?
I like Rivers. I have him in my top 5 as well. When I look at him, I think of a lot of things that you brought up. He's at home. He got a team traveling across the country. He has a plethora of weapons. Not sure about Tyrell Williams' status for this week. I saw that. I'm pretty sure he didn't practice. Yeah, he didn't practice today. So I guess it's not looking very bright for him. So he may also be able to find a little value in that wide receiver spot for San Diego. But yeah, Rivers is a guy with a high floor. He needs to throw the ball for this team to succeed. At the end of the day, early in the season, Melvin Gordon was getting those volume red zone touches, and he was having those phenomenal days where he's putting up some 19 points a game and scoring 2 touchdowns every week. But that's just not the same Melvin Gordon we're seeing right now. Melvin Gordon gets a plethora of touches just in general, where you get like his game log, he has 17, 24, 32, 23, 22, and 27 carries throughout his past 6. And then in those games, he has at least 4 targets in every single one of them. So Melvin Gordon's going to get a chunk of action, but I don't think it's enough to deter me from taking Phillip Rivers into account when I'm building my cash lineup this week.
Yeah, exactly. And, Antonio Gates didn't get any receptions last week, and I figure that Rivers, I don't even think he had any targets last week at all. And you figure you're going to get him involved in this offense. And I just really like this spot, too. Like, as we mentioned, 2 really big wins for the Buccaneers here, at Kansas City and then hosting, Seattle, and a pretty much gross game if you take away the first quarter with Mike Evans with 2 touchdowns. And the Chargers have an implied total about 26. That's a lot of points to be gotten in this game. I think it's like top 4 or 5 this week, maybe even 3. And they're obviously favored, and this really bodes well for them. And I think Rivers might be a staple in my cash game. Give me one of give me 2 plays that you're going to be looking at. Your 2 primary plays here now at quarterback.
All right, so when I look at quarterback, my primary cash options that I've been thinking are on FanDuel. I'm looking at, like, if you can swing it, if you can find value plays that you like elsewhere. Drew Brees has just the safest floor that pretty much you'll ever see out of anybody in any situation playing at home against Detroit. His game logs at home this season are 26.9 points, 33.6 points, 20.7, 23.02, and 32. So he's giving you that, like, if we're saying that you want, like, just ballpark estimate of, like, 2x from everybody, he's giving you that almost 2.5 for the majority of his home games right now. And then he's also just giving you, like, if you don't go by, like, that 2x standard, and you look for, like, let's say, like, 18 points from your quarterback spot, then he's giving you that every single week at home. So I think that you definitely have to consider, of places you want to pay up, you have to consider quarterback, and Drew Brees is one of them. And then another place that I'm looking to pay up, or not even pay up at, he's like a mid-priced guy who I'm really high on this week, who I think won't be very high owned for recency bias reasons, is Russell Wilson. I look at Russell Wilson, like, I had him in my lineup last week and kind of burnt me on the road at Tampa Bay. Team only put up 5 points, so that was a shit show pretty much. But if you look at the Chargers at home, so we're just taking this situation into account. Seattle at home is 5-0. Carolina on the road is 1-4. And then in those games, Seattle scores 26 at home and Carolina allows 31 on the road. So this game bodes well for Seattle's offense. So I think the majority of Seattle's offense, maybe aside from Doug Baldwin, is going to be under-owned this week. There's merit to pretty much anybody you want to play on this offense, where if you want Jimmy Graham for one of the top tight end production days on Sunday, then there's merit to him. There's merit to Baldwin. There's merit to Rawls. But I like Russell Wilson a lot. And if I'm not paying up for Drew Brees, then I'm probably going with Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on Russell Wilson. Yeah, Drew Brees, I just don't know if I'm going to do that. I feel like we'll get to the next player in that game in a minute. But if I'm going to pick a quarterback from that game, I might go Stafford. But I really like Russell Wilson's floor now with Luke Kuechly still out on the Panthers. That opens up more scrambling opportunities for Russell Wilson. And I believe he ran for 80 yards the last outing, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he had 8 rushing attempts for 80 yards last week. We're seeing that's huge. We haven't seen that all year. And, of course, this is the week, he threw up a stinker, honestly. All 8 of his 12 points came on the ground. He didn't throw a touchdown or anything. And I figure he's going to get maybe 1 on the ground, 2 in the air, and then boom, there you go. You've already crushed value. Maybe he gets you 5, 6 extra points on the run. I think that's really awesome. You take a look at the Panthers' pass defense. It has improved. They're not really, really shitty like they were at the beginning of the season. They're 15th DVOA right now. They were about 29th, but they are still 26th in yards allowed per pass attempt. And their run defense is still very good. So you figure they're going to be, airing the ball out a little more. And I kind of like how their wide receivers match up against the cornerbacks here, especially Doug Baldwin against Leonard Johnson, who really doesn't want to see a lot of – he does not want to have to deal with Doug Baldwin all game. He's going to smash and crush him in the slot this week, so I think that's huge for him. We haven't seen Jermaine Kearse or Tyler Lockett break out, and I think this could be the game for that. Maybe Russell Wilson tosses a bomb or 2. Um, let's move on over to another one of my picks here. I like me some Tyrod Taylor now. Only in GPPs. I don't think he's safe enough in cash. He really hasn't, I mean, I guess you look at his game log, like he's only put up one stinker in his last 10 games, and that was last 2 weeks ago at Cincinnati when he didn't find his way into the end zone at all, and he ended up with 9.5 points. But if you look at the rest of it, he's above 15 points in every game. He's sitting at 7.4. We know that Oakland isn't the greatest defense, like at all whatsoever, and we know that the Bills are going to try to attack Oakland on the ground a little bit. I think Tyrod Taylor is going to go very much overlooked, and I think he's a great GPP option at that 7.4 range when a lot of people might be, going up to Russell Wilson or going to Jameis or maybe Kirk Cousins even. People have been liking a lot of Tannehill. He's looked good recently, but I like Tyrod Taylor. I think he can add you 3 to 5 points on the ground, 30, 50 yards or so. If he throws a touchdown, it'd be awesome. He doesn't throw too much in the red zone. But Shady, they don't really get into the red zone like that. If they break off a touchdown, it's been over like 20 or 30 yards. What are your thoughts on Tyrod?
Yeah, I think Tyrod's a guy who consistently goes overlooked on every slate, and he has a really safe floor pretty much every week. He's been consistently underpriced on DraftKings pretty much all season. Up until this week, his salary pretty much hovered around 5,000 for an extended period of time, and he was scoring 20 points a game. He had that down week against Cincinnati where he only put up 9. I think I might have had him in my lineup that week, to be honest, because
classic.
If somebody had a down week, they were probably in my lineup.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a guy with a safe floor who's a value play, and then also has that rushing upside. And then if he is able to find somebody deep, like if he finds Marquise Goodwin for a 70-yard touchdown, then you're going to make some money off of that. Assuming that the rest of your lineup is just hanging in there, like playing to their floor, then you got all that upside from Tyrod.
Yeah, Raiders' pass defense is 30th in yards allowed per pass attempt, and it's not like we know Tyrod's good at going down the field, but it's a nice boost and plays. I think they're going to get maybe 5 more plays in this game, and the Raiders' pass defense second in DVOA. So they establish the run game, they get that play action going. I think we can get a bomb down the field. It's just predicting that wide receiver. I don't think I'm going to try to do that, but if Sammy Watkins is out there more, hey, his best weapon is back. Yeah, you want to be a week early in GPPs. I think this might be the week for a little Ty God action. Maybe I don't know if I'll pull the trigger on Sammy Watkins stack, but yeah, I don't think you need to when Tyrod can get you that little bonus from the floor of his running ability here. So I really like that play.
Mm-hmm.
Give me another one of your plays here.
All right, so I got 2 more guys at quarterback that I want to mention, and then I'll also touch on the Matt Stafford that you referenced earlier. Mm-hmm. Quarterbacks going into New Orleans. Let me pull this up real quick. All right, so in their last 25 games, the road quarterbacks in New Orleans, they average to be projected for about 15 points a game, and they average scoring about 19 with 68% consistency. So they're consistently outperforming what models and computers project them to do because they're playing against the Saints, and then they're playing in basically Coors Light of NFL. So they're scoring 19 points a game, which is a startable quarterback by any measure. And then if you're looking at Matt Stafford, he doesn't have great recent game logs, but then if you also look at that, he's been playing against the 3rd, 6th, 3rd, and 5th best defenses against quarterbacks in his last 4. So he's been getting dealt really tough matchups. He's coming on a long week here, having played on Thanksgiving. So I think that he could definitely be a guy who merits a lot of ownership this week. One guy who I'm high on, who I know you're not very high on this week, is Aaron Rodgers against Houston at home. And this is another thing where I looked at the splits, and this made me look at it, and then I looked throughout other information, and I didn't get deterred from it, where Houston on the road allows 26 points per game, where at home they allow 17. So while in certain situations you might look at them and not want to target them, when they're on the road, that's a time to target them. And then Green Bay at home scoring 26 points a game. And then the weather is a big issue, as we talked with our buddy Raz earlier in the week. And so I looked into Aaron Rodgers in the cold. And in games where Aaron Rodgers has played under 35 degrees, he still scores 24 points a game. So it's not like he's his production hasn't seemed to dip that much in so he's played 7 games in that span. Only 2 of them has he underperformed on like his projections. And I think the way you beat the Houston Texans is just by like you have to get them on the road. That's one benefit or one way to beat them. And then the Packers just aren't going to be able to run the ball at the end of the day. They haven't been able to run the ball for some weeks now. And I think that Aaron Rodgers at 8.5, he's in a tricky price range where you might either at that point say, I want to go down to the 7s or go up to the 9s and pay for Breeze or go down. But he's a guy at 8.5. If you're left over with 8.5 left after you fill out your rest of your lineup and you have your list of quarterbacks that you like, he's a guy who I would target. And then my one last GPP guy who I would mention who I think he'll probably see ownership like maybe around 5% this week is Andy Dalton at home against the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, this is Andy Dalton playing not in prime time, so he's a different animal here. He played against Baltimore last week, so I'm just throwing that one out the window. But his history as a quarterback, he succeeds when he's playing against guys who are playing against teams that are uncommon, so like a non-divisional team or a non-rivalry game type of deal. And so like over that span in common games, like against the division and such, he's 7 wins, 11 losses, 19 touchdowns, 23 interceptions. So he's really not a good quarterback in those situations. And he's 14-1-1 in uncommon situations. That's a 90 win percentage with 34 touchdowns and 16 interceptions. So I think that people are going to be scared off of him because they're going to see this Eagles defense that when they're at home, they can shut somebody down that isn't named Aaron Rodgers. And when they're on the road, they're honestly not very good at all. They just don't do very much on the road. They are, what are they? Let me see their record on the road. They're 1-5 on the road. So I think that Andy Dalton could definitely be a guy who comes out and puts up 25 points that goes at 5% ownership.
One thing to know about Andy Dalton is he's had 30 or fewer attempts in 3 other games this year when they've been projected to have like under 65 plays, and I could potentially see that happening in this situation. But I mean, if you want to hit a GPP, no one's going to be on the red rocket. And if anyone's like stirring the pot about Andy Dalton sucks in prime time, but he'll kill you in a 1 p.m. game, non-divisional, that's me. And like I know that story. Like although it's not the greatest matchup for Tyler Boyd or like he had to force the ball to Eifert all game, and I think Eifert could be a little sneaky. And I think the best spot for Dalton to crush value if he hits a deep bomb somehow, I think that's like the best way to attack the Eagles. I think you know better than I do, and we saw what happened the other night and what Rodgers was doing, and I guess you can get a little Dalton love. I don't know if I'll be able to pull the trigger myself, but I don't hate the pick, and you're going to get him at a low ownership. I do want to mention Derek Carr. Great play. You could play Derek Carr. People are going to be his finger is fine. Bills defense, not too, I'm not worried about the Bills defense, really. So Derek Carr is a good pick for both cash games and GPPs. My GPP dart this week, I'm probably going to toss in some Matt Barkley. He threw the ball 56 times last week, guys. Like, they don't really have much else of a choice, really. He's at 6K on FanDuel. He's going to get, like, maybe another 2 touchdowns. I feel like he's all right for that. I mean, his ownership was maybe, like, 0.09%. I had him in the GPP. I, like, nailed it, but, like, he had, like, 22 points and all. He did turn the ball over 3 times, so he might turn the ball over more. But the 49ers suck, and let's remember that. So if you want to do a little, toss in, like, the cheapest value QB, low QB punt, Matt Barkley, go for it. I have no problem with that. And I guess on the flip side of that, you can toss in Kaepernick. He's just been so good. I mean, his price is starting to get elevated, so I don't know if I'd go that way in cash, really, but I don't hate Kaepernick either. Any final thoughts on the QB position? Anyone else? We didn't touch upon that. We really liked this week.
No, I think we got pretty much everybody. I'm just not touching Tom Brady for any reason. Like in that 8.5 range with Aaron Rodgers, I don't really like Brady considering Rob Gronkowski's out. And then I tweeted it earlier when I saw a little Twitter spat going on about how the Patriots need to part ways with Gronk. Brady isn't the same without Gronk. So
I saw that thread. I got mad, and I was thank God for our boy the Sage for being on our side on this. Lunacy if you think the Pats are going to get rid of Gronk. I mean, come on, that's stupid here. But I'm not going to be playing Brady. I don't think I need to do that. I think I'd rather just go Matt Ryan, Rodgers, or Breeze. I don't need Brady. For all I know, this could be LeGarrette Blount 22 touches again. So I will leave on this note for everyone in case they forgot. Roethlisberger has multiple touchdown passes in 13 of his last 14 home games against non-divisional opponents, stretching back to 2013. He's also thrown for 300 yards in 12 of those last 14 home games. And the Giants are coming to town. Yes, the Giants cornerbacks have looked good, but it's Big Ben at home, non-divisional opponent. I don't think I need to say more from him. If you want to go Big Ben, go just do it. I mean, I don't have any problem with that. Let's pop on over to the running backs here. Leading the way, the two top most expensive guys, and one of the two will probably be in about, what would you say, like 40% of the lineups in cash games this week.
So like adding up their ownership, I think adding up their ownership, they'll probably see 60.
60? Yeah, I'm with you on that. Between David Johnson, Le'Veon Bell. I guess the question here is like gun to the head, you have to play one. Who are you playing?
I'm going to say David Johnson. How about you?
I think I'm going to go Le'Veon Bell. I like Le'Veon Bell's matchup just a little bit more than David Johnson. I was reading a little bit about how the Redskins are, I think, top 5 in defending running backs out of the backfield. And Carson Palmer, unfortunately, is in a thick-skulled offense of Bruce Arians, who just wants to shove the ball down people's throats in the passing game, which could be a little – I'm nervous. I'm nervous that if I play David Johnson, he's going to get me 15, and I'm not going to be thrilled at 9.2 on FanDuel. And what's he on over on DraftKings? Probably even more. 9.5 on DraftKings. Ugh. It's tough. It's very tough. It's very tough. You can't go wrong with either one, I think. I mean, but like I just mentioned ago with the Giants, is they are very good in the secondary right now, and you figure Le'Veon Bell's still going to get like 7 to 8 targets and then another like 20 carries and get you above 20 points. I mean, he's seen a rushing touchdown 3 straight games, and has seen 14 targets the last 3 weeks.
24
no, more than that.
24 targets. His last 2.
Yeah, 14 between his last 2. I mean, you look at that, and then I'm just a little scared of how well the Redskins cover backs out of the backfield. Albeit it's David Johnson, and it's fucking David Johnson. If you can play one or the other, and you got the 100 more, just roll with David Johnson. But I think I'm going to go Le'Veon Bell. But what's the second tier? If that's the top tier, give me your tier 2 of guys that you're looking at to look at in your cash game tier.
For me, my tier 2 is pretty expansive. It probably goes from – I'm probably only looking at 2 guys in the second tier, and it's probably between 8.4 to 7, and they're LaShawn McCoy and Jordan Howard, because LaShawn McCoy just isn't seeing the ownership that he should, and I, for the life of me, can't figure it out why. He didn't play a full game against Cincinnati, got in the end zone, and then got hurt. Shocker, he was on my team that week.
Shocker.
So, he still got in the end zone against what typically has been a good run defense. This season they've kind of dipped off, but then last week the Jags are supposed to be the 6th best run defense, and he went for 102 scores. So, and then he gets Oakland this week, who we've said it a million times, going back to the second week of the season now. Everybody just doesn't realize the Oakland defense isn't good. I believe I'm looking at 27th against the rush in DVOA. So that's not something to be scared of. That's something to target. He does have the cap of targets, cap of touches, because you always have Mike Gillisley in that backfield, maybe swiping a few, scraping a few targets off the top, scraping a few handoffs. But he's injured this week. He was limited at practice on Wednesday, so you're not really sure what you're going to get out of him. If he's out, then I think that LaShawn McCoy instantly becomes an elite play. And then Jordan Howard's just going to be the guy who everybody and their mother who has filled out the rest of their lineup and has 7,000 to 8,000 left. If you have anything less than 8.3 thousand left when you're filling out your last running back spot, you're probably going to be rostering Jordan Howard, because he's playing the San Francisco defense, and just everybody's targeting that San Francisco defense this season. So I think he's definitely you're either fading that chalk, or you're just trying to keep up with the rest of the pack in that one. So I think Jordan Howard and LaShawn McCoy are my tier 2 guys.
Yeah, I'm with you on there. I feel like it's both our lineups are going to be pretty similar unless you have some guy in tier 3 that you're going to be going. I'm going to have one of DJ, Le'Veon Bell, or LaShawn McCoy, Jordan Howard. Just say that I just, Melvin Gordon's a bad play. I mean, he's not a bad play. The amount of volume he gets in the red zone looks. If he gets you a touchdown or two and he's averaging 2.5 yards per carry, I better not see you dancing around the fireplace saying he was a great pick. You know what I'm saying? It just the things just fall into Melvin Gordon's lap sometimes. It's not like he's gonna bust you out like a 60-yarder. That's just not what he does. LaShawn McCoy has that ability this game. And 8.4, I think that's perfectly fine to pay for. There's value. I mean, if you're paying a little bit down at quarterback and you're paying down at tight end, you're paying down for a wide receiver 2 and 3, you can get both these stud running backs in your lineup. If I had to lean one or the other, I'm probably going to go LaShawn McCoy because, as we mentioned in the pre-show, Chicago is out 2 offensive linemen once again. And we've seen what San Fran has done against teams that have been missing linemen. We saw them hold Dustin Johnson. I keep calling him Dustin Johnson. I've been watching too much golf today. David Johnson. We saw him have a mediocre game against the 49ers when they had offensive linemen out. And then we just saw Jay Ajayi last week, the quote-unquote chalk of the chalk, easiest pick of the week. 18 rushes for 45 yards. I mean, he snuck that touchdown in, that son of a bitch, but that saved a lot of people's lineup. But my complete fade of him was, on point. We've seen it happen 2 times now. Missing linemen going against the San Francisco team hasn't hard out for running backs. It did for David Johnson a bit because he ended up getting 7 or 8 catches that bailed out his value. Yeah, 7 targets, 5 catches. We got the touchdown there, 46 yards. That bailed him out, but I might be a little hesitant to pull the Jordan Howard string again. Well, I mean, 3rd time's a charm maybe. San Fran gets, busted out, but this is the Bears here. So I think I'm going to go McCoy. Let's go down to tier 3. Pretty much anyone that's not, the guys we just mentioned is down in that jumbled mishmash of players that you're like, yeah, but no, not the matchup. Give me 2 guys down there that you're looking, whether it doesn't matter if you can play them in cash or GPP, just let it rip.
Jeremy Hill's a guy who I think has a lot of value in my opinion. He's in my top 5. I have him at number 3 after I have David Johnson and Le'Veon Bell essentially tied for first. And then I think Jeremy Hill's a guy who I'm going to look to a lot this week. This week will really be the week where we see what the Bengals offense is without Giovanni Bernard. Because last week against the Ravens, you're just not going to run the ball on the Ravens, so they only ran it 12 times. But then Jeremy Hill got a bonus 6 receptions last week that he hasn't seen pretty much before in his entire career because Giovanni Bernard has always been there going in on every 3rd down to catch the ball and all that type of stuff. And I mentioned it when we were talking about quarterbacks and talking about Andy Dalton, and I'll talk about it again later. The Eagles just aren't the same team on the road. The game flow here says go with Jeremy Hill. And then also, if you're looking at reverse line movement, there's been consistently 66 to 70% of the bets going on Philadelphia. But the line moved from 1 point for Philadelphia to 1 point for Cincinnati. And that's big for Vegas to switch the favorite in a game completely because that's just a switch in the money line as well. So I think that reverse line movement away from Philadelphia, so it shows that the sharps are on Cincinnati in this game with Philadelphia on the road. So that definitely made me a little bit more confident in what I've been saying about how Philadelphia just isn't the same team and you can target them right now on the road. So I'm looking at Jeremy Hill at 5.8. And then one more guy who I'll go with is if Mark Ingram isn't able to go, then I think that, because he missed today's practice. I think Tim Hightower is a guy who I might just lock and load into my lineups at 6.3 against Detroit at home in the Coors Light of fantasy football. I think Tim Hightower and Jeremy Hill are my 2 guys who I'd look to.
There you go. Yeah, I like do you feel safe enough to go with Jeremy Hill and cash? Is that what you're kind of alluding to here, or?
Yeah, if I can go with Jeremy Hill, I'm confident enough to go with Jeremy Hill and cash because I think he'll either score a touchdown, catch 6 balls, and or get a touch or run for 100 against us.
Yeah, so if you get you 10 points, that's value pretty much for him. So
yeah,
5.8 on FanDuel. What's he on DraftKings?
4.3.
Yeah, if you get to 70 yards, a couple catches, and he's what would you say the odds you get the touchdown? 40%?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll put it at that too. I don't hate that play. I might, if I really like some wide receivers or want to pay up more, that's something to take a look at. But with the news of Rob Gronkowski being out and the Rams coming to town, I think this is back to the LeGarrette Blount train. Keep that Blount rolling. 6.6K on FanDuel. I think he's as good as it gets for a guarantee of a touchdown is LeGarrette Blount in this against the Rams here. It's not like the Rams are going to probably get behind. The last two rookie quarterbacks to play the Patriots have gotten knocked out of the game. Pats are probably going to go up big in this one, I would imagine. They have like the highest total or second highest total this week. LeGarrette Blount's probably going to see 18 to, I would say, floor. He sees 14 carries, that game flow, and then if the Pats are up big and they're just salting out the clock, as always, you can see up to 22 carries. It's not like they're going to have Deion Lewis and James White out there burning clocks down against the Rams. So I like LeGarrette Blount this week. I think he's if he wasn't like 6.6 and he was like just 6K, I think that'd be great. And another guy I like is Doug Martin. Now that he's back, he's seen – what has he seen? Like 27 carries, 23 carries, 24 carries last two games. He got a touchdown the last time. He's seen 6 targets the last 2 games. I like Doug Martin. I mean, it is on the road. It's like as I mentioned, I really don't like the spot here. I think it's a letdown situation for the Bucs. But I like him as a little GPP option in the mid-range. And then obviously we have to mention Theo Riddick here. DraftKings specifically, I don't think I'm confident in playing him on FanDuel with the extra points you get for the targets. He's not a great running back. If he's a pass catching, he's pretty much a wide receiver that you're playing in the running back spot. I like him a lot for a little tournament option, maybe a little game stack. And I don't hate Devontae Booker either. Jags secondary, I don't really think I want to pick on them. They've kind of been okay this year. They haven't been turning the ball over. They haven't been causing turnovers. But I don't think Trevor Siemian is going to go pick on the Jags defense on the road when he's riding off this high of last week. I don't think he's going to throw for another 300 yards. I think Devontae Booker, I don't want to say this is a bold call, but I feel like Devontae Booker could get like 100 yards and a score or two. And I'm with you on if Mark Ingram is out, I think I just punch in Tim Hightower and call it a day. Maybe I'll have to look into a little bit more of that. One more thing I do want to mention is, as an Eagles fan, what is the deal with Wendell Smallwood and Sproles? Are either one of them playable, or is it just don't fall into the trap of the Eagles running back situation again?
Yeah, don't touch that Eagles backfield for an indefinite period of time where Lord knows what they're going to do, because they said that like the rotation of running backs was just all out of whack earlier in the year, and then they're not sure what they're doing now. And then like Wendell Smallwood is a better running back. Like when you put the ball in his hands and hand it off to him, he's the better player. Yeah. But then Darren Sproles is going to go in there and get 8 targets in the game, but then he's going to get vultured at the goal line if you roster him. So I'm not confident in rostering either of them, but if anybody out there is even considering it, you can only consider Darren Sproles on DraftKings for that full point PPR. Also, a little note that I wanted to throw in there when you mentioned the whole Trevor Siemian situation. He didn't practice today on Thursday, so
right.
He's been wearing a walking boot all week, so it's not even sure he's going to play. So
I like Paxton Lynch more than him anyway. That's just me, but
yeah, I personally do as well, because I think Paxton Lynch just overall has a higher ceiling. You can take that team farther, but they got Siemian in there right now, and they're facing a team that's good against the pass and bad against the run. And then Denver probably is going to lock them down. That game has I think it has the lowest over-under total on the slate. So that game's not looking like it's going to be high scoring. It's not looking like it's going to be an aerial show. And running back defense stacks are a thing that are real. So Devontae Booker and that Denver defense could be a good thing.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Is that the lowest total? I'm trying to check this. Yeah, it's tied with the Ravens-Baltimore game, which is another game I don't really want any part of. Is there anybody else? A guy I don't hate in tournament, Latavius Murray. It's not like the Bills have shown like they can really stop anything. I don't hate that play GPP-wise. Don't play Todd Gurley. Don't do it. The Pats are really good against the run. And they're gonna stack the box and make Goff throw it on them. I don't think Jared Goff is going to be hitting birdies on the golf course against the Pats this week. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What's another guy? I don't think I hated Devontae Freeman. I don't hate Devontae Freeman. Something about the Chiefs being banged up I just saw on Roto World. And Justin Houston didn't practice, and Jay Howard is on the injured reserve now, ending his season, defensive lineman for the Chiefs. So something to keep a look at over there with the Falcons. Is there any other plays that you want to leave us on here?
Nah, that's everything.
Oh, I got one more. Matt Forte. He's going to win somebody some money this week. GPP only, of course. He's going to win somebody some money this week. Colts. I think that's the best way for the Jets to attack the Colts is going to be Matt Forte. But if you ask a Jet fan, they love Bilal Powell so much more. He's the third down guy. He always seems to get the first down. So buyer beware. But I don't hate Forte. So let's move on over to the wide receiver position here. I have a bunch of receivers like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. I'm going to go through my tier 1 real quick and identify my favorite play out of the 4. So my tier 1, it's Mike Evans, Julio Jones, OBJ, Antonio Brown. If I'm going to pay for one of them, I think I'm paying for Julio Jones. Yes, people are going to be like, oh, but, Marcus Peters, it's going to be so tough. I'm not worried about that. It's Julio freaking Jones here. We've seen what he can do against the best of the best cornerbacks here, and he's not just going to be against him the entire game. I think Julio's a great option. Maybe I don't know how much they're going to be in the red zone. It's going to have to take a bomb. But I think Julio would be the guy I'd pay up for, honestly, or in that range, above 83 to like 9K. I'm not as huge on Odell Beckham Jr. this week. That's the only, to play the Giants, it's to stop the guy with like the crazy hair, and I think the Steelers will do that. They kind of need to start winning some games here, and you're an NFC East guy. The Giants are going to come crashing down at some point. They're probably the most disgusting looking. What are they? 7-3, 8, and whatever they are. Mm-hmm. I rode OBJ the last 2 weeks, paid off one, didn't pay off the other. I think I'm off OBJ this week. I'd rather go Antonio Brown. So I think for me it would go Julio Jones, Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, Odell Beckham Jr. at my top tier. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I like Julio Jones a lot as well out of that group. For the Marcus Peters worry, he's only going to line up. He only lines up on the right side of the formation 28% of the time, and Marcus Peters stays on that side of the formation 92% of the time. So it's not like he's going to be seeing an absurd amount of him. Also, that game has the third highest over/under on the slate, so that definitely bodes well for that. Looking at that, I'm not like I like all of them like a little bit for each of them, but I'm not sure I love any of the other guys. Antonio Brown at home is definitely a force, but I'm not sure if I'm gonna be rolling that out this week. Let me look through this game log. It looks like he has a touchdown in almost every single home game except for Cincinnati. He has either 100 yards or a touchdown, so he's got a safe floor. But as the most expensive wide receiver, I think I could allocate that 9K to something else. I'd rather not spend that 9K there and spend the 9K on like a David Johnson, Le'Veon Bell, or spend the 9K on a Drew Brees instead of an Antonio Brown, who I don't think has as high of a ceiling as the rest of those top priced guys do.
Yeah, I hear that. The question is which guy are you playing, Antonio Brown or Le'Veon Bell? I think I just play Bell. I'd rather pay the extra $300 for a running back who's getting the carries and the amount of looks like your average wide receiver gets. If you're going to play them, fine. I mean, they have pure raw points standpoint. They're going to get you probably potentially 12 to 16 average, I would say, depending on how many touchdown variants they have. But between those four guys, I think the one I'd pay for is the cheapest one is Julio. The next tier guys, you can pretty much clump it all together between Cooper all the way down to, we'll cut it off in the 7K range. Cooper, Nelson, Demaryius Fitz, Allen Robinson. The two guys I'm looking there are just play Amari Cooper. He dicked everybody last week. Everyone's going to be pissed to not play him this week. I don't see a reason not to play him. I really don't. And then with Fitz, it's the same narrative every week. Our boy JM to win says the same thing. He's a slot possession receiver priced as a down the field threat, and it just really he gets a shit ton of looks in the red zone, but he doesn't get a lot of yards all the time. And I like that they're home, and I like that Bruce Arians has a pass-first philosophy. I get that in 7K, that's all right, but I'd rather drop down or go up to Amari Cooper. I don't hate Jordy Nelson, but we had mentioned the Houston corners are pretty good. I'd rather not mess around. If I want a piece of the Packers offense, I'd rather just get Rodgers so I can get it all. And we also mentioned with the Jacksonville Jaguars and Demaryius Thomas, I'm not really a fan of the matchup out there. You know, he's seen like 10 targets or more in each, like literally each game in the last 12 years. Look at his game log: 6, 7, 7, 7, 7, and then 10, 11, and 8 for all of his games. They're there, yes, but it's also Trevor Siemian. So he has gone over the 100-yard mark once, and he had 100. And the other times he's been in the 90s has been like 3 of the first 4 games. Other than that, it's been very up and down between, you know, high 80s and low 30s. So no thank you for me. I'd rather go down into the mid-range, where I think that's where we're going to be cooking up. So you agree with me there, or do you have anything against that?
I like Jordy Nelson a lot out of that group right now. Looking at my initial lineup, I think I have him. Yeah, I have him plugged in there because if I were to take him out and look to go elsewhere, I'd have 7.6 at that wide receiver spot, and it's not enough for Amari, but I don't want to leave that 600 on the table and roster like Fitzgerald or Allen Robinson. Like the Houston cornerbacks aren't slouches by any means.
Yeah, I do not want to mess with AJ Bouye. He's a great player.
Yeah. But then if you're like looking at that, he's only going to line up there if he sticks with his like seasonal trend, 25% of his snaps. It looks like he'll get Jonathan Joseph in this game, who isn't a bad cornerback, but I think Jordy Nelson is substantially better. He's 4 inches taller than him. So he has that size advantage. And then I'm high on Rodgers this week, so inherently I got to be high on that passing game in general. And I'm not sure if I'm going to go naked Rodgers or naked Nelson, or maybe stack them a little bit in like a GPP somewhere. But I think that Jordy Nelson has an okay floor. I think realistically he could probably end up at, let me see his recent game logs to see comparatively. He could reasonably end up at like, I'm going to say 8 targets for 5 catches and 70 yards. So like at a 9.5 game or a 10.5 game. But I think that's about his floor. And I think his ceiling, I think Rodgers could throw 2 touchdowns to any wide receiver on that team any week. So I think all Green Bay wide receivers always have a pretty high ceiling, maybe except for Randall Cobb, as he hasn't really done much lately.
Yeah, Randall Cobb is the only one with his ceiling capped, and it's just by the nature of the routes he runs. With Jordy Nelson, I think his floor is about 8 and his ceiling is 23, and that's, you know, what you just said, 70 yards and 2 touchdowns kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I don't see him getting 10 catches, you know what I mean? But he is one of the most dominant, you know, sideline receivers in the game, and if that's where they're looking all game, hey, you know, I like that. I don't hate that pick whatsoever, but the area I'm very much interested in is, you know, Doug Baldwin, 6.9K, Michael Thomas, 6.9K, Kenny Britt, no thank you. I'll pass on that, even though he is about like 31.7 of the receiving yards of the Rams. Brandon Cooks dicked everybody last week. I don't think a lot of people are going to be happy about going back to him, but that's a GPP play I like. Nook Hopkins, 6.7. Yes, it's Brock Osweiler, but it is the Green Bay Packers, and they're not the greatest defense, and it is scary. He might see 12 targets, but he might catch the ball 5 times. That's the problem. You had mentioned the injury concern about Tyrell the Gazelle Williams. I like Dontrell Inman in this game. I think that's my guy. If I'm going to go Rivers paired up with one receiver, I think I go Inman. Down the field threat. I think he's going to be able to burn some guys down the field, and his touchdown equities goes up, skyrockets. And that same goes for Julian Edelman. Maybe not for the touchdown equity part, but Gronk is out, and those targets are going to go somewhere. The Pats are inconsistently using Bennett. I mean, if he's blocking one game, he's only going to see maybe like 6 targets. If he's out, you know, he maybe sees 12 targets. If the variance is too much for me to like rely on Bennett receiving some of the Gronk looks, so I like Edelman at 6.6, and I like him even more on DraftKings. He might literally see 15 targets if game flow doesn't go directly in New England's way. They might have to throw the ball a little more. Willie Snead, I think, has the best matchup in the Coors Field matchup, honestly. As we met, literally the best matchup. Let me pull up this my sheet right here. If I'm not mistaken, I feel like he has the highest top 5, top 6 advantage against Quandre Diggs. And if you play DFS, and you have to know the name Quandre Diggs, he plays in the slot 99% of the time. Willie Snead is going to be in the slot 76% of the time. So Quandre Diggs is literally a top 2% worst cornerback in the league. This is a Willie Snead game, and I don't know if I'm going to play him in cash though. Willie Snead's not a safe play by any means. Do you agree with me on that?
Yeah, definitely.
It's just you go Willie Snead, you're asking for like a 2.8 or 5.4 in your cash lineups. I'll go Michael Thomas. He is the red zone target. He's their hands down their best receiver, and Breeze loves the guy. I mean, I was all about. I literally play him like every week. Him or Cooper. It's like if I'm like I said, if I'm steering the train or stirring the pot for any two guys in the wide receiver position, I literally play Cooper, Edelman, and Michael Thomas like considered each week, and I think the same goes again this week as well. So let's scroll down a little bit here, look for some more value. We have to mention Tyreek Hill, 5.8. I had him, I forgot to mention to you, I had him in a GPP lineup with Emmanuel Sanders. I didn't check, and I nailed a GPP like big time, and I had no clue. So Tyreek Hill, I think, has another decent matchup. A lot of people are going to be chasing these points, so I don't know if I'm going to be on him in GPPs as much. Something else to mention, I love me some Anquan Bolden this week. His touchdown equity has gone up. He's only 5K on FanDuel. And if you look at his recent game log, he's seen 9 targets in each of the last 2 games. And as you had mentioned, Stafford hasn't seen an easy defense since Washington in his last, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games. Only one of them is against a bad defense. And now they get the Saints. Like, I think Anquan Bolden is as good as it gets for a touchdown. If you look at his game log too, he's scored 4 touchdowns in his last 6 games. I like me some Anquan Bolden. Pretty much my favorite receiver from the Lions this week. Let's scroll down a little bit more. Is there anyone down there in between like the 5K to 6K range that you like to target? We can mention the Bears guys, some backups for the Falcons. Malcolm Mitchell, Kenny Stills. Who you like down there?
I think that I've mentioned pretty much everybody on the Cincinnati roster so far, and I think that there's just a lot of value in pretty much all their spots, considering they're missing both arguably their top back and wide receiver. So the points are going to come somewhere at the end of the day. I'm very adamant about that. The Eagles' defense isn't going to stop them on the road. I've said it once, I'll say it a million times. So Tyler Boyd, we kind of disagreed on him last week. He kind of played to his floor that we both pretty much said where his floor pretty much sat at about that 9 point, where like a similar to Tyreek Hill floor, where it was 9 targets, 5 catches, 62 yards against the second best defense. And this week, I think he's going against a much less talented defense. So if I had to go down to that range, I would probably be looking at one of the 3 of Tyler Boyd, or one of the 2 of Tyler Boyd and Anquan Bolden in cash. And then in GPP, I think Brandon LaFell has that touchdown upside where he hasn't really shown it.
Oh, yeah.
Recently. Like, he had that 2 touchdown week against Dallas that really boomed. And then his last 2 weeks, he's had 9 targets in each of them. And then they were both against much tougher defenses than what they're poised to face this week. So I think Brandon LaFell in GPP is an idea that I'll probably roll out somewhere along this path. And then also another guy that I want to just harp on a little bit more in that 6 to 7 range is Julian Edelman's pretty much a fixture in all of my lineups, all my cash lineups this week.
Play Julian Edelman, print money. Just do it. Let me get to the guy. I'm Dontrell Inman at 5.2. I'm big on this San Diego passing game, and especially with the news with Tyrell Williams. I mean, look what Inman has done since 10-23. He's seen 6 or more targets. He's seen 6, 7, 9, 9, and 6. And he's almost reeling them all pretty much. He's seen only 1 touchdown in that span, but we've seen him when he goes for over 100 yards, he gets a touchdown. That's what we've seen here. And if we don't see Tyrell and he's hampered, I love Dontrell Inman in a GPP. I don't think I can play him in cash. I don't think I'm going to need that value, but that's my favorite play down there. We can play where is he? Marquise Wilson, my boy. That's another one I like. Him or Cam Meredith. I think you could pick one of the 2. I think Marquise Wilson is the better player. He's going to start to see more snaps. He only saw, I want to say, a little bit under 50% of the snaps last week. Cam Meredith just knows the offense more. He's been out there longer. You can play either one of them. I think they both have pretty solid matchups. One more guy I want to touch upon. I think if Julio Jones were to get absolutely locked down in this game, I think Mo Sanu makes for a great GPP play. I know he was pretty popular last week, but Taylor Gabriel took all the points and all the scores. I think Mo Sanu has one of the best advantages if he sees Phillip Gaines a lot of the game. Philip Gaines is coverage grade is a 36.2. And the advantage on our Pro Football Focus sheet, the Bible, is 0.55, and that's second to Doug Baldwin here. And, the next closest guy is, Pierre Garçon. Don't think I'd be going to Pierre Garçon. If he gets a touchdown, egg on my face. But I'm looking at this. I like Mo Sanu. I like Malcolm Mitchell. People are going to start to notice Malcolm Mitchell. We got to shout out Eric Rasmussen, our Razzle Grinds, once again for leading the train there. He's been on top of those 2 picks. Are there any other guys down here that I want to mention? I guess you can say Ted Ginn Jr., of course. I mean, maybe he's going to catch one, but think if I'm going to bank on a guy catching a long touchdown pass at the 4.9, it goes LaFell, Ginn, and then Humphreys. I think Humphreys has a chance. Adam Humphreys on the Buccaneers has a chance to have a decent game. The San Diego Chargers struggle more over the middle, and that's where Humphreys tends to be. That's a guy I sort of like, but Bolden, I think if I have the 100 extra, I like Bolden more at 5K. And then looking around here, I don't hate Eli Rogers on Pittsburgh. Everyone else, I guess Pierre Garçon at 5.5 is interesting now, but if we hear word that Devontae Parker is not playing, Kenny Stills is going to reel in a 60-yard touchdown pass. I might make that my bold call. I think I like that GPP play a lot. Tannehill's improved. He really has improved. That's something I don't hate there. Are there any other wide receivers you want to touch down before we finish things up here with tight end?
I think Garçon, if Jordan Reed ends up not being active, could see a little bit of ownership, and maybe his touchdown chances would definitely increase.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we're bringing over the tight end. Start us off here. So what we're going to do a top guy, a mid guy, then a punt, and discuss that. So give me your top guy here while I enter into an NBA lineup.
All right, my top guys, I'm going to go with Tyler Eifert. Shocker, I'm mentioning another Cincinnati Bengal in this podcast.
You haven't got the hint yet. Play Cincinnati Bengals in the GPP, even in cash.
He's just without AJ Green, without Giovanni Bernard, those targets have to be spread out elsewhere. And Tyler Eifert, at the end of the day, is the most talented piece on that offense that Andy Dalton can throw to. So even when he was facing a top tight end team, he still saw 11 targets, 5 catches, 68 yards, and a score. So that just shows that he's going to try to get the ball to him regardless of what really the matchup says. And then if I'm going with my mid-priced, I'm probably going to go with Eric Ebron at 5.7. 1 target for no catches last week, but that was against Minnesota. And Minnesota's a strong defense against tight ends. He had a good game against Minnesota earlier in the year, but honestly, I think any good game against Minnesota for a wide receiver / tight end might be a bit fluky. But he's seen decent production. Only that 1 target last week, but that also was a short week. They have the long week now. Eric Ebron at 5.7 is a guy who I'm looking to in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, I believe it's called. Mm-hmm. And then going down cheap under 5K, I'm looking at Vance McDonald of San Francisco. The guy's he's had a really strong floor. If you're looking for a floor of targets for a tight end, he's pretty much as good as you can get at this low bargain price. In his recent games, he's seen 8, 6, 6, 6, 6, and 6. So you know what his role in that offense is, and he's going to consistently give you what he's been giving you. If he catches a touchdown, then you're hitting. Yep,
you're smacking value.
Yep, exactly. So when I'm looking down there, I'm looking to him. Vernon Davis, if Jordan Reed ends up not playing, is a guy who you might think about maybe in a GPP, but Arizona's so good against the tight ends with such an athlete like Deion Buchanan in there, basically a safety at linebacker. Anybody else to touch on?
Yeah, let me just say one thing about Vance McDonald. If you're a Barstool fan, tell me he looks just like Barstool Smitty. He got blockhead. He got a big old blockhead. I seen that the other day, and I've been meaning to tweet that out to him. I'm not sure if Smitty or Vance McDonald. I keep forgetting to do that, but my man looks exactly like him. But I don't know. I said it on the solo pod I did on Monday in the review lineup. I'm like, I don't know why I didn't play this guy. I said it every week. Oh my God, he's seeing 6 targets every game. He's athletic and struggles a little bit with his hands, but he's look. I mean, look what he's done the last 4 games. 15 points. He saw that. He got in the red zone. He got the touchdown. 7 points. 12 points. Got another touchdown. 8 points. Kaepernick is getting the ball to him. He's getting himself over the middle. I also agree with you that Tyler Eifert is the guy I'm going to pay up for. I like him more than Jimmy Graham this week. In speaking of Jimmy Graham, in that matchup, I think I like Greg Olsen more. I think Greg Olsen, I believe, has torched Seattle the last 2 times they played, and Greg Olsen's been torching everyone. So, I mean, torching everyone's FanDuel lineup because he's been a bum sort of. So I like Greg Olsen in GPP. You mentioned Eric Ebron. That's a nice way to get a little piece of that passing attack. But in that game, if I had to pick one between Ebron and Fleener, I'll go with Ebron. I think Ebron kind of got dicked out of some targets his last game. Yeah, I mean, you look at like they said, the last 4 matchups for him haven't been good, and his target share has gone down. 10, 8, 5, and then 1. I think he comes back a little bit here. I mentioned before that San Diego kind of struggles with defending people over the middle. So I like Cameron Brate a little bit at 5.5. I don't know if I'll pay up for that. I think I'd rather go Zach Ertz at 5.3. I think that game's sneaky going to have a lot of points. You've mentioned it a few times. I think you look at Ertz, his target share he's seen the last few weeks, and it's a little better than Vance McDonald's. I think Ertz is a little bit better player, but sometimes the Eagles just start throwing out their second tight end in there, and I get real pissed off. Is there anyone else I've mentioned? I'm off of Austin Hooper this week. I don't play tight ends against Kansas City. It doesn't work out that well.
I think CJ Fedorowicz merits some conversation. He also has that Vance McDonald floor. He's only $100 more, and he's playing against Green Bay's water defense as well. I think that's just one more guy I wanted to mention.
I'm with you on that. When are we going to see a Dennis Pitta touchdown? That's another one that I've been waiting for all year. It just hasn't happened. We've seen decent targets every week. I don't think I want to pick a player from the Dolphins, Ravens game, but I feel like 4.8 in a tournament, it's not going to hurt. And do you think Martellus Bennett is just going to become the chalk of the chalk, and we're just going to be completely off of that?
I kind of hope he ends up being the chalk because I know I won't have any of it. And then, like I mentioned, Deion Buchanan being a safety playing linebacker. Mark Barron is a safety playing linebacker for the LA Rams. So I think that if he gets put on Martellus Bennett, he's a physical player. So I think if anybody can really match up with Martellus Bennett's physicality, it'd be Mark Barron.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Guess anyone else I would want to mention? I like Gates more than Hunter Henry this week. If you're picking a San Diego pass catcher, tight end wise. Other than that, Vernon Davis at 4.6 on FanDuel. No Jordan Reed. You look at his game log. 9 points, and then obviously nothing against Green Bay, which kind of whatever. That's short week and everything. Blah blah blah. And then the 4 games before that, 14 points, 11 points, 10.9, 12. Only seeing between 3 and 6 targets, but he's getting into the end zone. He's an established player. If you're not, if you haven't been under a rock the last 10 years, he's one of the better tight ends that's come through the league. So you're saving a lot of value going down to that. And don't play Logan Paulson. don't do that. I know someone might be pivoting off of someone down there, and you see the Bears backup tight end and everything. No, don't do that to yourself. Anything else you want to discuss? Let's run through a quick defense real quick. Who are you going to play top, who you're going to play mid, and who you're going to play at low. We don't need to go too much into detail here.
Obviously, Broncos against Blake Bortles, just the turnover machine, and a low over-under. They're my top. Mid, give me a second.
I kind of like the Packers, especially if the weather's crappy, which it's not right now. It's 30, it's going to be 37 and maybe snowing a little bit. But if it's real shitty weather, Raz had also said that he's played the Packers because Brock Osweiler is going to die and freeze in the snow and sleet and whatnot.
Yeah, I agree with that. And maybe also the Patriots for 100 more. Mm-hmm. And then punting and defense, pretty much at this point, you're just hoping for a touchdown. I would probably go with San Francisco against the backup Matt Barkley.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. San Fran, I like that down there. I don't hate the Ravens defense. Are we I'm an AFC East guy. Dolphins have won too many games in a row here. Something has to give. Ravens defense has been pretty solid, but I think I'd rather go for the Pats defense at that price. And yeah, if you pay up for the Broncos against Blake Bortles, I mean, Best team forced turnovers is the Broncos. The best quarterback to target 4 turnovers, Blake Bortles. Do the math. If you got the value there, and you like someone a little cheaper, a wide receiver or tight end that could save you a little bit of cash to bump up to the Broncos, just do it. Eat the chalk, eat the value, eat the chalk rather. Play the Broncos. It's simple as that. Do you have any final notes here?
Let me go through this. I guess one more guy who I want to mention, if you're going to completely punt a wide receiver spot, a guy who's been getting targets with Jordan Matthews injured, Dorial Green-Beckham's minimum priced on every single site. So I think that if you're completely punting in a tournament, that if you're looking for a guy where you could just say, if he scores a touchdown with all the other high-priced players I have, then I'm winning, then Dorial Green-Beckham would be the absolute dirt cheap guy who I would go to.
Yeah, I was going to say, if Jordan Matthews plays, I'm considering playing him. He's seen a crap ton of targets last few weeks, and it's not like I'm afraid of the Bengals defense or anything. So, but I like that. I don't hate that play. If you haven't caught the whiff, that Ryan is probably taking the over in the Eagles-Bengals game. So, I think that'll end it here for us here, Setting the Edge, Week 13 Fantasy DFS breakdown for the Sunday main slate. Follow us on Twitter at @settingtheedge_, at the Paisano with an A, and at the Great Zambino with an A. And then make sure you follow Razzle11 Grinds on Twitter as well. Check out the website, settingtheedge.weebly.com. We'll have some more content up there for this weekend. Best of luck, guys. Hope you cash all your cash lineups, hit a few GPPs there, get some money so you can fill those stockings up for your family and such. Best wishes from us to you, and salute. Let's find this button to close this.